Hey there, Sugar Snaps. If you want a super easy wet felting project to help you get started in wet felting, then I suggest following this tutorial because we will be making a pouch for a soap bar, or basically encasing the soap bar in wool felt. These are great as gifts, as shower scrubbers. They're great if you don't enjoy the sliminess of a bar of soap next to your sink, but you don't want to use a bottle of soap. Any number of reasons. They're great gifts because you can personalize them with colors and textures and adding designs to the outside of the soap cover once you've felted it. So for this project, you will need a bar of soap that you're going to cover with wool, and I have links for all the tools and materials in the description below. I am using olive oil soap to do my felting, and it's what I'm going to be felting over. A bamboo mat. This is often used in sushi. You'll need a bowl of cold water and a bowl of hot water. I have my kettle just off the stove. Do not boil your water because you will need to be able to put your hands in it. I accidentally did, so I'm going to have to wait a while for it to cool down, or add cold water to cool it down. And then I have a bag of multiple different colors of fiber. This is alpaca fiber that has been dyed in multiple colors. If you've watched any of my other wet felting videos, you might recognize these. So we'll play around with some of these colors. This is just a fun palette of colors. You'll also need a piece of bubble wrap, and I suggest having a towel on your workspace and working on some sort of tray, which I forgot, so I gotta go get that. Work on some sort of tray in order to contain your mess. If you watched my vlog earlier this week, I talked about how my first wet felting video, not knowing exactly how to do wet felting away from a sink, I just did it right on the towel, and the towel or the water just kind of dripped off the sides. So I suggest using a baking dish, baking pan, something that will contain some of the water so that you can dump it back into your bowls as you're working. I have a little craft tray. Again, links in the description below. So let us begin. After a sip of, I almost said wine, which sounds really good, but you probably don't want me sipping on wine while I'm doing tutorials. Okay, I'm going to lay out my bamboo mat. I kind of have a mess going on here. Okay, so our first step is to lay the bamboo mat out flat with the bubble wrap bubble side up on top, so the bubbles are facing up. And now we're going to lay out some fiber. Now, ideally, you won't get your soap block wet until you start to felt. So we're going to set this aside somewhere dry until we're ready to do the felting. So I'm going to do a small rectangle of fiber laid out in front of me. I have my fibers here. Let's do some blue. So I'm going to pull out some tufts and layer them on top of each other. And I'm just grabbing kind of thin handfuls and overlapping them, and then I'll go in and fill in any gaps. And I'm doing a piece that's about 5 inches by 3 inches. And then if you want any designs on that surface, then you can go in, and I'll do stripes. So I'll put strips of the yellow across. And at this point, designs will get somewhat distorted in the process. So I suggest, if you're starting out, doing something pretty simple. Okay, so my stripes are in place now. I'm going to gently lift this up, if it will lift up, and flip over my pieces. It's a little wet on my surface, so things are sticky. And then I'll take my fresh block of soap that I'm going to be felting over, and I'm going to set it to one side of that pile of fiber and fold over the ends and use the stickiness of the soap itself to kind of stick it down. And then the other end, you might need to get some water in there, and then fold over the sides. And then once all three of those sides are folded over, we can fold it this way and bring the edges up and over the sides here. And then over the ends, like so. Okay, so there is our covered soap block. Now we need to start felting, and we may need to add layers to our fiber as we work. So I'm going to first dip this into some hot water. Use my bubble wrap over the surface to gently rub the surface, the sides. Kind of move in a circular motion on all sides, rotating as I go. And then on the ends. Then I'll stick it in the cold water and then do the same thing. And you can always put your bubble wrap onto your little tray if you're getting water everywhere, and work directly on your tray. Okay, and then put it in the hot water. Rub the surface with your hands. And then in the cold water again. And that transition from hot to cold and added friction increases the felting process. Okay, so the great thing about this is that you don't have to felt it until it's solid. You'll just be shrinking the soap block because it will continue to felt as you use it. So once it's reached a place where the fibers aren't pulling off and you can grab at them and they aren't lifting up, like this is not quite ready because there's still some fibers lifting up. Again, you don't have to reach the full felted capacity, just to the point where it won't fall apart when you're using it. So that looks pretty good right here. I still am getting some fibers lifting up, but as I'm using it, the fibers will tighten up. So I'm going to wipe off my hands and then bring the block over here and dry this off. And now you can allow this to thoroughly dry or start using it right away in your kitchen or your bathroom. I suggest setting it up somewhere where it will be able to dry between uses so that it doesn't start to mildew. The fun thing about these soap blocks felting projects is that as you're using it, the felt gets tighter and tighter, and the felt gets tighter and tighter, and then when the soap is gone, you have a little tight, wet felted pouch that you can cut open and turn into something like a coin purse or a little pouch or something like that. If you notice that you have areas where the wool is really thin, you can add bits of wool to those spots. Be coming in here and kind of rubbing fiber into the material to cover those spots. They will tighten up and felt over as you use the soap block because it will continue to felt as you use it. So that's a quick tutorial on wet felting using a soap block as your canvas. You can use this same sort of technique wrapping the wool around an object to create pouches or purses or bags even. So explore those ideas using this basic technique. Thanks so much for watching. Happy wet felting, and I'll see you in a few days with a new tutorial. See you next time.